At least 12 countries across the globe witnessed deadly floods in the month of July. From Germany to China to India and the United States, the record-breaking floods are a stark reminder of the grim consequences of climate change. No one can escape the effects. Not even the most developed countries in the world. The threat is real. Why was Europe caught off guard? What is causing the unprecedented floods in China? And how can India tackle the monsoon mayhem? In Western Germany, devastating floods tore through entire villages. Weeks later, emergency services are still combing the wreckage. The clearing up process is in full swing. Look at these scenes of devastation. Germany witnessed its most devastating floods in 60 years. It has left behind mountains of trash. Waste disposal agencies are as yet unable to put a figure on how much debris has been created. But they are unanimous that the situation is unprecedented. Broken fridges and wrecked cars are piling up on roadsides and in makeshift dumps. Even though workers believe they are about halfway through, it could take weeks or months to dispose of the junk.
There has never been a situation like this in Germany. We still don't know how much rubbish we will have in the end. I hope we have reached the halfway mark with the clear up.
Between the 12th and 15th of July, heavy rain fell across the United Kingdom, Western Germany and neighbouring Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg. A storm complex moved east from France into Germany and stalled over the region for 2 days. Some of the affected regions may not have seen rainfall of this magnitude in the last 1,000 years. At least 177 people are confirmed dead in Germany, adding to Europe's total of more than 200 people who lost their lives in the continent's floods. Floods started in Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands and Switzerland on the 14th of July. After record rainfall across Western Europe caused multiple rivers to burst their banks.
It happened very fast. The water rose to 1.6 meters. Some corpses were floating in the water. People had to take refuge on the roofs. It was really horrible. There is no electricity, no water either. The houses are no longer inhabitable. There is nothing left to save.
First, the fire brigade came and warned people to go to the upper levels. About 10 minutes later, there was a short siren alarm. I also heard church bells. Then there was a deathly silence. It was spooky like in a horror film. The warning time was far too short.
Nichts mehr, leer, leer, leer. Erinnerungen sind weg. Nichts mehr.
Sauber aufgebaut, mit Händen. Alles weg.
Those who had been evacuated in Western Germany are returning to towns and villages devastated by severe floods. While they clear up the damage, they are also bracing for yet another disaster. Experts are warning that the flooding in Germany could set off a new wave of COVID-19 infections, as the highly infectious Delta variant is spreading across Europe. People stranded in emergency shelters are at higher risk.
It's a crisis situation for everyone, for the rescue workers who are working under pressure, for the people who are being evacuated, for the volunteers. That's a lot of people crammed into a small space. And in all this, wearing the mask, keeping your distance, it's not possible.
The European Flood Awareness System issued alerts of life-threatening floods in advance. But unsuspecting residents were caught completely off guard. Germany is considered to be one of the most technologically advanced nations. So how did the system fail so miserably? Devastating sights were also seen in Germany's neighbouring nations, Belgium and the Netherlands. On the 24th of July, the southern Belgian town of Dinant was hit by the heaviest floods in decades. A 2-hour thunderstorm turned streets into torrential streams. Cars and pavements were washed away. No deaths were reported this time around. Ten days before this incident, burst rivers and flash floods had claimed 37 lives in southeast Belgium. But the carnage that happened on the 24th of July shocked everyone. Rainwater gushing down steep streets swept away dozens of cars, piling them in a heap.
Oh, ma camionnette, oh ça y est, l'eau qui vient dedans en plus. Oh ça y est, elle démarre. Ça y est, j'ai la camionnette du travail qui part. Mais non! Oh putain de merde, non, 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 non!
The fury was such that it washed away cobblestones, pavements, and whole sections of tarmac. Inhabitants watched in horror from windows.
In less than 20 minutes, the water rushed down from here above, then it gradually grew larger. It became a torrent, and the torrent took all the cars away gradually. Everything was piled up there in the back, and so it went into the garages. Everything has to be rebuilt now.
I was driving when the water came in. All the roads were blocked off and there were torrents everywhere. I had to leave my car and walk home. I had mud up to my knees.
Heavy downpours and thunderstorms also caused severe flash flooding in parts of London. Torrential rain also left homes, roads, and several subway stations flooded. Water also entered some of the hospitals that had to halt their services in the capital of England. Large parts of the city have been built on a floodplain, and the Victorian drainage system wasn't created to withstand this kind of intense rain. Infrastructure experts have been warning for years that the city, like most other large cities, isn't ready for climate change. China has been dealing with flooding throughout its history. However, over the years, The impact has worsened with climate change and rapid urbanization. Even as parts of the country were reeling from the heaviest rainfall in 1,000 years, the eastern coast of China was lashed by Typhoon Infa on the 25th of July. The typhoon, the sixth one this year, first landed in the Putuo district of Zhoushan, a major port in Zhejiang. A week before this typhoon, 1,000 kilometers away, an unprecedented flood hit China's central Henan province. In Zhengzhou, a provincial capital, a staggering 7.95 inches of rain came down in an hour. This is almost a year's worth of precipitation. People died inside submerged subways. Family members refused to leave train stations in a desperate attempt for some news of their loved ones. Chinese President Xi Jinping has to deploy the army to rescue those trapped in inundated subways and public places. At least 73 people have died. More than 800,000 people have been evacuated. And 1.1 million had to be relocated. In both China and northwestern Europe, the disasters followed a period of unusually heavy rain, equivalent in the Chinese case to a year's rainfall being dumped in just 3 days, completely overwhelming existing flood defense systems.
Flooding in Germany and the flooding in Henan, the heavy rain in both places, obviously has a connection through global warming. Okay, now, so the idea is this, that when you have an increase in the temperature of the atmosphere, you also have the increase in the water temperature. And so because of that, you will have a lot more evaporation of water going into the atmosphere. And I always have this analogy is that when you have a wet towel, you squeeze so much water out. But if you have a much wetter towel, you squeeze a lot more water out. So therefore, when you have more moisture in the atmosphere, if you can squeeze out the water, which then becomes rain, then you have a lot more water to be squeezed out. And so therefore, with global warming, you will have a much higher chance of heavy rain. And that's what happened in both Germany and Henan.
Even though Beijing has touted its massive dam network as a remedy for its devastating annual floods, the deluges in recent years prove otherwise. China already counts more dams within its borders than any other country in the world. It has about 23,800 large dams, accounting for 41% of the world total. Experts say the relentless downpour and flooding can be partly attributed to these dams. Henan disaster has also prompted public scrutiny over the preparedness of authorities. Meet Cheng waits. The Chinese farmer is looking for his pigs. More than 100 of his pigs drowned in the floods, and the outlook for those missing is bleak. The 47-year-old farmer is inconsolable.
Most of the pigs have drowned. Only a few survived. They are still soaked in water, and we can't do much about it. There is no safe shelter for them. This is it.
Cheng's farm is one of the thousands in Henan, famous for agriculture and pork production. There are 3,000 residents in the village. Most also raise pigs or chickens. All of them are busy clearing debris left by the receding floodwaters. Livelihoods aside, the flooding also has many worried about fresh disease outbreaks. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs issued guidelines to local governments on how to prevent animal disease after flooding, including measures on disposal of carcasses and disinfection of farms. For now, though, Wangfan farmers say they are focused on survival.
Hope that we're still alive by the time you air this. There is no food or water. Life cannot go on. We are bankrupt.
Changing weather patterns and extreme events are threatening people worldwide, and governments need to plan for such extreme weather events.
What needs to be done is to look at the possible increases in the frequency or the possible increases in the amount of heavy rain. Then, when you design your pipes, then you need to design not based on past experience, what happened in the past, but based on the projections of what might happen in the future.
Incessant rains have resulted in flooding in many parts of India too. On the 28th of July, at least 7 people died and over 40 were reported missing after cloudbursts triggered deadly flooding in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The incident took place at Hanzar village in Jammu's Kishtwar district. Several structures, including 9 homes, were swept away by flash floods after heavy rains inundated the region. A cloudburst was reported in Himachal Pradesh's Lahaul Spiti on the 27th of July. The flash flood triggered by the cloudburst resulted in the death of 1 person, while several continue to remain missing. Rain also triggered a landslide in Sangla Valley, the Kinnar district. On the 25th of July, 9 people were killed after rolling boulders fell on the vehicle they were traveling in. In this viral video, you can see how large chunks of rocks are breaking off a mountain and rolling down into the valley below. Landslides triggered by heavy monsoon rains have also hit parts of western India. The state of Maharashtra is experiencing its worst spell of monsoon in July in 40 years. Raigad is the worst affected district, and more than 100 villages are facing the risk of landslides. At least 200 people have died across the state due to floods and landslides. Goa, Karnataka and Telangana are also battling flood-like situations.
कुछ भी नहीं दिख रहा है, नहीं मेरा घर दिख रहा है, नहीं मेरे लोग दिख रहे हैं, आजू बाजू के लोग दिख रहे, कोई नहीं दिख रहा है.
Countries across the world are dealing with despair, including the United States. In Arizona, helicopters were seen rescuing people trapped by flash floods. About 10 million people are under flash flood watches across Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah. Experts believe that flash floods will become a more common occurrence as the climate crisis worsens. Thousands of people took to the streets of Naples to protest against the meeting of G20 environment ministers, which was held on the 22nd and 23rd of July in the Italian city. With a number of countries resisting firm commitments, ministers from the group of 20 rich nations made little progress on how to reach climate goals. Flag-waving marchers protested against what they said was a lack of action on global warming. In the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement, the countries participating agreed to a common target to limit global warming to well below 2, preferably to 1.5 degrees Celsius, compared to the pre-industrial levels. Most countries aren't hitting Paris climate goals. Is it doomed to fail? Extreme weather and climate change are inextricably linked. How much proof does the world need to unite and act on climate change?